I want you to reach out in love. I want you to let those brothers and sisters around the base, let them know that even though the anti-whites wield so much power, that we are winning every contest with them, and that it's only a matter of time. Tell them that they can be more than they are. Tell them that they can stand up for Western kind, Western civilization, and everyone who lives in Western civilization of all immutable characteristics. Tell them that there's a way that they can stand up for it in love, with the moral high ground. Be gentle with them at first. Coming out of a story that you thought was the real world is one of the hardest things that folks can do. If you go there with a true spirit and a true heart, with humility, you're going to win more souls than you'll ever turn away. And in the end, all of that will redound to the glory of our people and the reclamation of our destiny. I was just wondering, where am I? But here I am. We can't get enough of being live. Wonderful people here in service to white well-being. Wonderful to be with you all again. Give me some feedback. Are you seeing me okay? Let me make one change. Are you hearing me okay? Other than that, I hope everybody is having a good day wherever you are in the world. We're rolling in on a going free. We are Promethean Promulgation asking if we're celebrating or we're hating. I don't really know about the total content of this video. I've seen just a little bit. This is one of our friends. This is Sydney Watson. She's one of our friends. And I was just seeing here that she was demonetized for this video already. This video she just released today because she had included, and I guess she changed the title. Originally, the title had the word white in it for white people, white women, I guess. And so we're going to go through this video. So to finish the thought, she believes that white, using the word white in the title, maybe associated with people, then ended up getting her demonetized. So if you are a fan of Sydney Watson's, you're watching this live or in replay, then you might want to head on over to whatever platforms she's able to receive financial gifts on, and gift her, since they took away the monetization of this video over there at YouTube. Wonderful people, anti-whites from top to bottom. And so look into that. We're going to be taking a quick look. I see Joseph, I see Rory, I see the great Yiz, I see so many wonderful champions. The great Clips is here. Franklin, great Franklin. James, great to see you. And we're going to get in, we're going to examine this because it looks pretty exciting. Sydney starts off by talking about how these clips that she reviews are anti-white. And that is magnificent because they are anti-white. So calling it what it is the only way to get from here to there. Oh, one thing I did want to mention, Sydney lost her Patreon at almost the exact same time I did recently. She didn't have any content on her Patreon. They said that they took her Patreon away because of things that she says elsewhere. Of course, they took mine away, and I was able to verify with them that it's simply because I'm not anti-white. Because we're white positive, and we bring people of all immutable characteristics to the conflict with anti-whiteism, the ideology that is destroying America and the West. Simply because I do that, that was grounds for kicking me off of Patreon. And if you were following me there and supporting me there, do know that you are no longer supporting me there. And there are other options in the description below, as the normal options, as well as we quickly go through this. It'll be no more than an hour, seriously, because I got to get on to some other things. But let me grab this, and we're going to have a look. Yeah, Sydney Watson is, she's, what would they call, like, her political position? Like, back in the day, they would have called her, I say back in the day, wasn't that terribly long ago, I guess, but alt-light, maybe, is what they would have called her. I don't know what she calls herself. Does anybody know? And we and I are not alt-right. We serve white well-being for the benefit of everybody who lives in Western civilization. Yeah, I think she just calls herself. I don't know whether she says a specific. I don't know whether she says a specific sociological, political moniker. She calls herself a journalist, and so 0022 Kingdom of Vinland. Let's get into this. I will grab the share. She just put out this video too, so I really wanted to get on this quickly. Apparently, crying is dangerous. Look at this lovely female that her video opens up with here. Let's go ahead and I'll give her video a like. And look at this thing. She's a wonderful, just this person here is about to, she's anti-white. And that's, of course, the problem with her. I mean, I probably would not go this direction with stylistic decisions for attire. I would not say this is my sartorial taste, but it is this lady's, this woman's. So again, if there's any problem with my mic, let me know. 0022. I think she calls herself conservative. That was kind of the same time frame people called her alt-right. Okay, so she's considers herself a conservative potentially, and you'll see like in her videos normally, and I see some of her videos from time to time. She's a funny woman, and got a lot of fans, and very entertaining. Brings a lot of interesting information to the table. But as a conservative, there's typically speaking, there's a lot of sort of bending over backwards in deference to anti-whitism. But you see with the way that she's treated and anybody who gets in the way of anti-whitism that they are victimized the exact same as those people who outright identify anti-whitism as the problem for Western civilization, and who therefore are most saliently in the way of anti-whites being able to victimize Western kind and Western civilization, and therefore all people who live in Western civilization of all immutable characteristics. Everybody is being victimized as a consequence of the war being waged on white people. And we're going to have to recognize we can't continue with these proxy positions and these faux that we were talking about yesterday. We have to call it what it is to put an end to it. You cannot mince words here, because that's what's happened for our lives, our parents, their parents, and that's why we are where we are today. We have to call these people out, anti-whites, for how immoral they are, how monstrous they are, how evil they are, that they are anti-white, that their goals are anti-white, their objectives are anti-white. They celebrate the victories of anti-whitism. That's all you need to know. So she titles this now, apparently crying is dangerous now. And look, she's doing fabulously already. 98,000, almost 99,000 views, just like this. So the anti-whites at YouTube must not like that at all. Let's dig. Art Acrobats said, I gave you the heads up. And thank you, Art Acrobats, for that. Thank you, because I wouldn't have known about this then. Thank you very much. See, folks, you participate in a myriad of ways in service to white well-being, and reaching out to me with this Sydney Watson video enables me to real quickly get on and to talk about it. So let's listen. Tell me how the sound is for these people versus, and Sydney herself versus me. She's just feed me the info as we roll.
According to y'all, you aren't your ancestors, even though.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to jump in. This anti-white woman thing starts out saying that y'all, meaning white people, so an entire group. Now, I think this is from TikTok, and every time I get onto TikTok, within no time at all, not talking about any non-white races, not saying anything negative about any non-white group of people or any gender group of people or any homosexuals, never saying anything negative about anybody, because we are white positive. We focus on our people and just saying enough is enough, no more victimizing us. I'm instantly thrown off. I'm instantly censored from isn't this Chinese or whatever it is, this communist Chinese platform. But of course, these people can be on there. They can They can talk about white people as an entire group, defame white people as an entire group, shame white people as an entire group. Nothing happens to them. Same thing across the totality of all the platforms in the United States. That tells you what? The anti-white narrative under which we live is fraudulent. It is not white men, white people in charge for the benefit of white people. It is anti-whites in charge for the benefit, or for the victimization, I should say, of Western kind, white people, for the white erasure of America, of Australia, of UK, etc. So let's roll. So she says, y'all, meaning you white devils, I presume.
Though y'all using their playbook, their strategies, their techniques, you cry like them, you lie like them.
Let's go back.
You know, it's funny. According to y'all, you aren't your ancestors, even though y'all using their playbook, their strategies, their techniques, you cry like them, you lie like them, you attempt to remove yourselves from them in order to not be held responsible for the atrocities they committed in the past, which is totally fair and understandable.
Okay, what she's saying there, it's fair and understandable that you would try to escape your responsibility for the fictional crimes of white people in the past. Even if you were to grant this anti-white monster, and that's what makes her a monster, is that she's anti-white, even if you were to grant her that all of that fiction is real, all of it is real, she's holding us responsible for the crimes of people that we are not, that we were not, for crimes that we did not commit. I wonder, and this is what I've said to people before, could I hold her responsible for the rape her brother committed this morning if her brother actually committed a rape? Could I say, you are blood related, you are immediately related to your brother. He raped somebody this morning, therefore we're going to hold you responsible. You owe me because the victim was white. Of course she would say no. Of course anti-whites would say no. So this has nothing to do with the pretexts that they bring to the conversation to justify the victimization of Western kind. This is just a lie. It is just a lie. But now she's going to say, you will see that, well, you're the same as them. You're victimizing us today, of course, giving no evidence. And so therefore you have to pay. Therefore you have to suffer.
However, y'all don't like to be held accountable for the shit that you do today. Chelsea and Savannah just gave us a crash course on exactly how lethal and dangerous white women could be, whether they decide to take the offensive or the defensive position against a person of color.
Well, here we go again.
Okay. So the thing I want to point out is that here comes Sydney. And I'm gonna applaud her right now. I mean, let's listen to this.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to Hell. And as per usual, because we're on the Hell Gondola, today's video is sponsored by Established Titles. Now, it really has been a while since we've taken a trip into anti-white rhetoric land.
Okay, let's get some raucous emojis and some 07s for Sydney using the concept that overturns and defeats the concept that defeated Western civilization. This concept that she just said is anti-white. All conservative, rank and file, good people, Republican voters out there, conservatives, nationalists, patriots, across Western civilization, fans of Sydney's, you all must use the concept anti-white. You must call the ideology that is destroying Western civilization anti-whitism, even though there are going to be all of these other names used by anti-whites. They'll give themselves many names. You never call them by the names of their taking, and you never take the names of their giving, okay? And just to that the point that the anti-white, non-white woman just made, I head up one of our meme curatives that you simply cannot get atonement for a crime that was never committed. So in other words, you didn't harm, you're not doing anything negative to non-white people. And so you can never be forgiven for it. You can never achieve atonement. Atonement cannot be made for a grievance never committed. You need to remember that also, because since you can't actually get atonement for something you never did, it is part of a story, the anti-white narrative, where you continue to be victimized on the basis of your race. And it doesn't matter how much you ignore it. It doesn't matter how much you say that you can't see color. Your handicap does not prevent anti-whites from victimizing you on the basis of your race.
And I would say that's largely because the last few years have occupied people's attention with injections and illness and government overreach. Not that I blame anyone for that at all. It's been a weird time. Actually, I do blame our politicians, and for them, I have a large amount of contempt. But somewhere in amongst all of the new medical...
I'll jump in there. That's good. She should have a great contempt because they're all lying bastards. Anti-white.
Expertise a lot of people have acquired recently, there continues to be a discussion about white people bad. Although I will admit that the constant onslaught of media coverage...
Okay, yeah, it's always going to be, I just want to jump in and say, for those Sydney fans who might show up, it's always going to be white people bad. We live under an anti-white narrative, which is fiction and fictionalized reality. That is what the news and entertainment media, the politicians, the universities give us because they are all dominated by anti-whites. It will always be this way until we reclaim our destiny, our personal lives, etc., from the anti-whites. That begins by getting rid of your white guilt. That begins with treating yourself for these poisonous anti-white ideas that you are laden with, that you are poisoned with, that you are crippled with, infected with.
About white supremacy has died down a little bit. Although that being said, it doesn't stop this kind of crap cropping up on my Twitter feed. Apparently, if you're a white person...
Okay, so it hasn't died down at all. It's just her attention on it she's been ignoring it more than in this past than she's now doing because of the reason she gave, recent past, that is, because of the reason she now gave, which is that there was the pandemic and the injections and etc. Honestly, if you're a white person who says that they're committed to racial justice and you're in good standing with your family, I have questions for you, and they are definitely pointed. So you see, as a white person, your white guilting never ends, and your sacrifice for the totality of your life never ends, because all you can do is palliate the white guilt. You can never cure it. You can only ameliorate it for a time, and then they are back again. Why? Because you didn't commit the crime that you're seeking atonement for. Remember the 9 words. Atonement cannot be made for a grievance never committed.
Committed to racial justice, and you still have a relationship with most of your family, you're a big old baddie. And our friend Jessica has questions. Where do these people
Yeah, let Sydney know, Art Acrobats, or anybody else, that we are reviewing this video.
Even come up with this? Now, at this point, I assume most of you know that TikTok is a breeding ground for all sorts of rhetoric and ideas. So, admittedly, I wasn't too shocked to find out that the anti-racist part of TikTok concerns itself with crap like this.
White women feel safe with black men, not only because of the hypermasculinity that they believe black men exhibit, but because of the lightness and power they hold over black men. And
they feel safe. This anti-white here is claiming that white women... I'm not going to stop at every point because I've only got an hour, but that's preposterous. White women feel safe with black men because not just because of the masculinity of a black men, this anti-white woman is saying, but because, and then I guess what she's saying, of course, by saying this, the masculinity of black men, is to say that there isn't masculinity in white men. Now, would that be okay if for me or some white person to say that white men are more masculine than black men? Of course not. The anti-whites would give the channel a strike. They would take the channel down. They would demonetize, etc. But anti-whites can do this, demonstrating that they are absolutely dominating and, in fact, totally in charge of most of these platforms. But then to say the real reason they feel safe is not just because of that masculinity, that superior masculinity, I guess she's allowed to say that in the anti-white world, but because white women are able to control black men with their tears, as though white women don't control 99.9% of the relationships with white men, with white males, I should say.
This is why white women love their black sons and hate their black daughters.
Oh, that's crazy.
Black sons give you access to the patriarchy. They give you power, whereas black daughters don't.
These people make everything flam flam. But I've seen this kind of commentary before.
Isn't it funny
As I'm sure
that so noticeable all the time. Conservative women, white positive women, white sympathetic women, patriotic women are all always more attractive in almost every single case than anti-whites, because an anti-white has like this black soul, this rotting soul inside of them, and it just comes through the pores of their bodies.
Sure, many of you have. This is not new. What was new to me, however, was finding out that a huge portion of the internet concerns itself with the concept that white women tears are dangerous. Actually, just white people crying in general.
Well, I'd like to just ask you, I don't know, maybe somebody can tell me. Has Sydney complained about the demonization of white men? And she's coming in here and she's upset that they are going after white women and the tears of white women. Has she complained in the past about the demonization of white men? Because that's a pertinent question. Or does she plan to do that? I hope she does.
I guess it's kind of like you shed a tear, you kill a queer. Actually, no, apparently gay people crying is still a problem.
Hey, what's up? I just wanted to ask y'all that do you comprehend that this is not exclusive to women? White gay men also do this all the time. You know that, right?
Anyway, like
It's just anything. It's just any excuse to victimize white people. You white females cry, and that's harmful to us. Ultimately, I just want to get to its root so I don't miss it. We're already approaching 8.5 minutes to the top of the hour. Only have to the bottom of the hour before I got to get back to work. And that is that this is about delegitimizing the outward expression of pain in white people. And we've talked about this many times, and we should talk about it often. This is about anti-whites saying the expression of suffering, the expression of pain, the expression of discomfort in white people is illegitimate because it is deserved. Their suffering and their misery is deserved. That's ultimately what is at the root of going after this white women and their tears. You see even this non-white guy saying, well, white male homosexuals, they do it too. So if they could go after white heterosexual males because they just cry at the sign of pain, they would say it's totally illegitimate. And your pain, it's not just your pain, your tears, your fear is illegitimate because you are white and therefore you're victimizing non-white people, and you've victimized non-white people for the last 2.5 million years or whatever it is. It is to say that your tears, your suffering, the expressions of your pain, the expressions of your fear are themselves tools of oppression of non-white people. That is, you cannot listen to these people anymore. You cannot use these proxy positions and faux foes anymore. You can't say it's about communism. You have to talk about the victimization of white people by anti-whites, or you're not doing anything. Ultimately, you're not doing anything. You keep touching around the circle, touching around the edge, the periphery, and the victimization will continue. You have to take the moral high ground by talking about their anti-whitism.
like I said, the idea that white women weaponize their tears and then use them as ammunition against other people in a multitude of situations is a fairly widespread idea. In my travels of the internet, I found countless hashtags with videos and millions of views, most of them arguing the same point.
Dear white women.
Good grief. Look at this anti-white. The problem with her is that she's anti-white. Not that she's non-white. Not that she has a very different taste from me in dress and jewelry and hairdo. The problem is that she's anti-white. But I mean, look at her, an anti-white, compared to Sydney, a conservative woman. Look at her compared to Ladybug, for example. Night and day.
If you want to be able to show your emotions, to express your sadness and your other shadow emotions publicly and authentically,
your shadow emotions,
and be taken seriously, you will need to address how you and your foremothers historically And in the modern day,
how do you like being condescendingly, superciliously lectured by an anti-white? This is all of our reality. And can you imagine anti-whites like this are leaning over white children and saying this to them? There was just that case, what was it, in California, where the parents are suing now, where the little girl had a Black Lives Matter a class that she had to draw something about Black Lives Matter, and she wrote on it All Lives Matter. And then they did this she was a little girl. They did this ritualistic humiliation where they brought her out in front of everybody, and she had to apologize for saying that all lives matter. We have to stop anti-whiteism. People, all good people of all races and immutable characteristics, we have to stop anti-whiteism, or this is going to destroy everything about the West that we like, everything about the West that we love, everything about the West that we need.
Have misused your tears, your sadness, and shadow emotions to hurt and damage people of color, men, women, children, people of color, Black.
That's an anti-white slur, this meme pathogen. People of color excludes Western kind white people from humanity, and it is a despicable phrase. That should be banned. Somebody using something like that should be taken right off TikTok.
Brown and indigenous people.
Flam Flam! Remember our good friend Robin DiAngelo who wrote White Fragility? Well, apparently there's an entire chapter dedicated to white women tears. Get a lot. There are also countless stories and articles across the internet, some even from major outlets discussing this topic.
Because she cried some crocodile tears. That's another good name for white tears, but they're crocodile tears who come from white women, because women who look like me and you, of envelopian descent, our tears are lethal to Black, brown, and indigenous people.
This is what happens. This is a diseased person infected with anti-whiteism. This is what ends up happening. She is, talk about lethal. Her entire existence is about waging war on people of a specific race, that race being Western kind, Westmen, men, women, and children, white people. That's what she lives to do, to wage war and to guilt them. There are white babies in the womb right now that this monster, this soldier for the destruction of Western civilization would talk like this to the moment that baby could understand the language. Do you understand? Is this making sense? You're not going to be able to talk about this in some sort of peripheral issue.
We weaponize our emotions against them because we also have absolutely...
You notice with these anti-white, these meme pathogens is what we call it. So if you're new here, fan of Sydney's, great. Glad to have you watching in live or in replay. You notice that anti-whites will throw around these meme pathogens, these anti-white concepts, with no evidence whatsoever. And the reason why there's no evidence whatsoever of how it works or why it works, etc., and examples of it working is because it is fiction. They are excuses to victimize white people.
No power in a male-dominated patriarchy.
There's nothing male-dominated about the West. I mean, this is a joke. This is so preposterous. Male-dominated. Women control every household. It's just go on and on. Women are about they're getting this money. This bill is going to go through, become law. Another example. There are endless examples. I don't have time. I'm running out of time. Endless examples of like with this bill here that the federal government are going to steal from white men. Predominantly the taxpayers of the United white people in general pay the lion's share of taxes. In my opinion, go ahead and look it up for yourself because I know anti-whites at YouTube would disagree. But they are going to be stealing from them to enable women in relationships with men in the West. This is going to be predominantly white women, destroying white families so that they can claim, well, I'm beaten here, or I'm abused verbally, or whatever it might be. When really she's just bored with the relationship. She doesn't like the hard. There's finally a challenge has showed up in her life, and she doesn't like it. And the federal government is going to buy her a house. That's not going to end there. I mean, we already see the preferential treatment societally. It's always believed the women. Legally, it all goes to the women. And here you have this thing, this degenerate anti-white slug of a creature lecturing you on how society is dominated by males. Of course, it's white males that she has a problem with, not those brown and black and yellow and whatever other males out there. They're all the good males, just the white males. And this is a white female that is behaving this way. This is a sickness. If you saw a group of, if you went under the wild and there were raccoons that had an extra like green stripe on their tail, and they were busily preventing all of their fellow raccoons from getting to food and getting to water and getting to nesting materials, we would rightly say those ones with the green stripe are diseased, because raccoons won't survive if they wage war on themselves and their own existence. Well, how do people get like this? They get like this by way of the infection of anti-whiteism.
We live in a society that was built at the behest of white men on the backs of black.
No, she's right at the first part. We live in a society built by white men and has been stolen. And on the backs of non-white people, think again, show the evidence. These people would rightly say, easily give up that, okay, the country was almost entirely white, all the way up, 90% white, all the way up until the 1960s. And they'll still say the country was built on the backs of non-white people. Give me a break.
Brown and indigenous people.
I think I would be more angry about this if I didn't feel like I've been given an intellectual lobotomy. Don't even try to beam me up anymore, Scotty. I just want the needle in my brain. Post-edit Sydney here. I forgot to tell you guys that you're already on the Hell Gondola, so don't worry about boarding. You're already here. You can't leave. But let's hear from today's sponsor, Established Titles, because
jump by that because I don't know.
Lady. Life has a lot in Scotland. This lets you participate or a lady. I'm not saying plane tickets, credit, titles, promises. Well, no, the hand.
Oh my gosh.
So if you two want a fan, told me that the first have a plan, we can have a kingdom. So your conversation comes from a TikTok trend called Turn It Off that started in mid-2021. The clips are from a TikTok off any purchase. Now, a starting place for this conversation comes from a TikTok trend called Turn It Off that started in mid-2021. The clips are effectively people crying to audio that tells them to turn it off, and then they stop crying.
Turn it off.
In order to make this video, I watched a lot of these TikToks.
So it's all white females. It's all white females. Why? Because the expression of pain, the expression of fear, the expression of suffering is enough for some anti-whites. You know, not everybody out there who's anti-white is as fanatical as some of the ones we've just seen here, as diseased as some of the ones we've just seen here. So the expression of pain makes a portion, a percentage of anti-whites, mirror neurons in the brain, become uncomfortable. Like, okay, they start saying, maybe this is enough. Maybe we've done enough. Maybe, look, they're really hurting. They're really suffering. They're in misery. Maybe it's enough. Well, the radical anti-whites, they're not going to accept that. The victimization of white people is their objective. And so they have to convince the rest of the anti-whites that, nope, that expression of suffering, of fear, of angst, of misery, of loss, of depression, etc. No, that itself is a tool of the victimization of non-white people, and you should be even angrier at that expression of their suffering. Imagine the kind of monsters that would conclude something like this and that would advocate and push something like this. Imagine how monstrous anti-whites have to be at the tops of these platforms that would permit something like this, but vehemently, strictly, psychotically examine every single word coming out of my mouth, your mouth, Sydney's mouth, for any reason whatsoever, that maybe it works too well against anti-whiteism so as to censor us into oblivion. Imagine the evil of that. How do we not see their hooves and leathern wings? Indeed, many of them actually put fake hooves on and leathern wings, especially when they want to go read to children at libraries and at schools and things like this.
And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. And many of the ones that I watched are mums basically saying that they need to keep it together when their kids are around, or doctors and other people in the medical field keeping it together when they're around patients, and so on and so forth. But of course, it's 2022, and we got to make it about racism.
Okay. I want Sydney to know, and all of her audience, everybody going free, the thousands who are implementing the Go Free method in their lives. And I strongly encourage you, if you're new, to investigate it. Just check it out. You don't have to stay. You don't have every Sunday at 5. We're live for 4.5 hours. Check it out. You don't like it, you move on. You do like it, it could change your life like it has so many thousands of others here. Why haven't you heard of us? Because we are actually fixing the problem, and anti-whites control the system. So they're preventing you from finding out who we are. Check it out. The tip I'll say here, never use the concept racism. Never use the concept racist. These are anti-white concepts. These are the concepts that defeated Western civilization. These are the concepts that have put you in this victim place now where there's no getting out of it, under this anti-white morality in which you are always the villain and you always have to be victimized. And that baby in your womb, it needs to go ahead and either get aborted or as soon as it's birthed, be privy to victimization by way of the cartoons and etc.
Why are some people so tone deaf? Like,
okay, she's pointing to her hand there. I guess that means white people. Like, could I point to something black in the room when I'm talking about black people? I don't talk negatively about black people. I don't talk negatively about any race of people. These people have no problem talking negatively about white people, and nothing happens. Tells you everything you need to know about the platforms.
This is not a trend. Some people actually do this to weaponize their tears against Black people and people of color. Whenever they don't get their way, when someone tells them something that they did is racist, or whenever they just feel like being a Karen that day.
Okay, Karen is an anti-white slur. It is the equivalent of saying the N-word to a black person or the K-word to a Jewish person. These are slurs designed for white people. We never use them because they're slurs. The name Karen is a beautiful name and should only be used as a name.
This trend is stupid.
What you just watched is a clip of something called the Turn It Off Challenge, the sound for which currently has 75,900 videos. And it's a prime example of the and their false victimhood to accuse and vilify people of color, particularly those from the Black community. This trend is showing the ability to falsify emotions and manipulate others. This has a dangerous history.
Okay, so you're suffering, you're miserable, you're a woman, you're a white woman. If you're a white woman, please, you have to implement the Go Free method in your life. You have to use it with your children to inoculate them against this anti-whitism, because just saying, be proud to be an American or be proud to be an Australian or whatever it might be, doesn't work. Just saying this stuff is stupid or silly doesn't work. Your kids will grow up to hate you. I promise. You have to inoculate them against anti-whitism.
My hair out. Many users on the old TikTok think this trend is dangerous because it exemplifies how us terrible white women can use our emotions to manipulate situations and make them harmful for other people. No, seriously. Lobotomize me. They often point to historical events to justify this position. The most common one that you'll hear is about Emmett Till. He was a 14-year-old boy back in 1955 who whistled at a white woman named Caroline Bryant, who then told everybody that he'd manhandled her and been inappropriate with her, and then he was subsequently mutilated and lynched. The Bryant side of the issue has claimed one thing all this time, whereas Till's family has claimed something else. And
So, I mean, that's going to be, whenever we're talking about the anti-white narrative, everything that has ever happened has been a victimization of non-white people by evil white people, for which white people need to be victimized today. Given the exact same scenario, irrespective of any of the races involved, spin them around, make them something not black and white, it doesn't matter. If somebody lies, and you can change the sexes as well. Obviously, white people are going to look at the objective reality of it, or the objective application of our norms, of our values, of right and wrong, of our legal system. It, of course, is wrong, immoral, illegal to make a lie about someone, to state a lie about someone that gets them victimized by the legal system and what have you. That kind of thing we already know. When it comes to anti-whites with piercings through their faces, and they have nothing but excuses for how and why we need to victimize white people. We need to keep pouring the victimization on. When it comes to these people who are saying the expression of your suffering, your misery, your hardship, etc., as a consequence of what we're doing to you is tools of further victimizing us. When it comes to these people making claims about what happened in the past, I say bullshit. I don't give a shit what you have to say. I don't want to hear any of it, because you're just bringing things up to victimize me and my people. If you want to talk about how X in the past was wrong, fine. There are a lot of things in the past that was wrong to do or right to do. And can we victimize you on the past of this morning, several hours ago, when your brother raped somebody, maybe a white woman? Can we victimize you on the basis of that very recent history? Of course, they're going to say no. So I don't want to hear any of these anti-white claims.
There's an ongoing argument between the two families to this day. Realistically, what happened to Emmett Till was awful. And if you take race out of the equation, if somebody lies, which a lot of people think Caroline Bryant did in this case, and that leads to another person being murdered, dying, or even incarcerated.
Yeah, we just said that.
That's wrong.
Yeah, okay.
And there didn't have many protections. That we had a
but she doesn't go into,
and the way that
she doesn't go into like what I just did, that it's just a tool that they use to victimize us. She's being and I'm not blaming her for this. She's a conservative. She's being much more sort of conciliatory, much more of a let's come together on a, and that's a normal female position, feminine position. But that let's come together, that is objectively wrong. If it happened the way you said, it's wrong. And the anti-whites are not there for some sort of objective fairness. They are there to use stories from the past, whether they're totally fabricated, completely real, or fictionalized reality. They're there to use whatever they can to justify victimizing you and your babies today if you're white, to justify white erasing us from the civilizations that white people create. Western civilization, we're the only ones that do it. They're using these things to justify that. And so you just turn them off. There's no meeting them halfway. They don't want to meet you halfway unless you're going to come with your throat bared, if you're a white male, and meet halfway on your back with your legs open if you're a white female. Those are the only options that anti-whites allow.
Approach and treat other people. By today's standards, for example, if a white woman were to be genuinely terrified and emotional towards a white man, everybody would be like, believe women.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because the victimization of Western kind begins with the victimization of the white male. And white women were given a way out. They were given a pass in order to break up the white family, in order to break down the white family, white communities, Western civilization. And far too many white women took that pass and they said, yes, it is the white male that's the problem. He's the problem in the house. He's the problem in society. Please give me a high-paying job. Please don't victimize me, even though I'm also white. Please give me some measure of reprieve. Too many white women took that for many decades, and white women got away with it. And these anti-white women, especially the non-white anti-white women that she's showing here, they are well aware of that. And that's why now, since they don't need white women to betray the white race anymore in order to victimize us, they're coming after you as well. And it's white women need to stand up and say, yes, we played a part in the destruction of the family by taking on board anti-white ideology and trying to get a reprieve for ourselves while the guns were aimed at white men. Now they're in your sports kicking your ass now and saying they're female, even if they were born with a penis. Now they're females. Now now they're on Jeopardy as born with a penis, but now they're females, defeating you and being the best female contestant ever to be on Jeopardy. Now white women are being victimized, and they have been for the past, it's been mounting up 10 years or more, and it's going to continue. White women have to say, we were wrong. We shouldn't have betrayed the white race and Western civilization and the good people of all races in Western civilization by accepting these like tokens and these passes, these free passes, so that they could get out of the victimization of the white race.
The moment that same woman is scared of someone who is non-white, we are forced to assume that she is racist, and her motivations for doing what she's doing are also racist.
Yeah.
Just because I do not want critical race theory taught to my children in school does not mean that I'm a racist, damn it.
So listen to how powerless that is. This woman needs the go free method. And I'm sorry to Sydney, I'm going to have to speed this up some. We're almost at 15 and a half minutes till I'm going to jump. But so Sydney will talk a little bit higher pitch and a little faster than normal. I apologize for that. But look at this woman here. White people are fed up. They're talking about critical race theory. If you talk about critical race theory, anti-whites will just bring it back. It's anti-whitism. They'll just bring it back under another name, even if you succeed there, won't they? And this woman is talking from an immoral position. She's not in the moral high ground. She's saying, I accept your anti-white moral structure. Don't call me a racist. I'm not a racist just because I want. Yes, you are. You see these two anti-white women? In just a moment, they both say, yes, you are. What this white woman needed was the go free method. She needed to be in there. And instead of saying critical race theory, she should have been righteously indignant, saying, I am not, and all these other white mothers and white men, we are not going to accept anti-whitism in this school. We are not going to accept the victimization of our children because we are white, and we are sick and tired of you anti-whites doing this to us. We're done with it. I don't want to hear any more anti-whitism. These people at the school board, they would then have to defend, they would then have to say either, well, we're not anti-white, and that puts these women and men in charge because they get to determine whether or not you are not anti-white enough. How much more will they have to do to not be anti-white? Well, you've got to get rid of this anti-white teachings at school, this curriculum at school. You've got to get rid of it, or you're still anti-white. Or the people at the school board, including these women, have to out themselves and say, yes, we are anti-white and you deserve to be victimized. That is the immoral position. White people are not comfortable with the immoral position, defending it. And they will lose supporters like this when you do that. White women who are Sydney fans, white males and everything, you need to look into the method of Go Free so that you can be powerful like we are powerful. Watch these two anti-white white women in response.
Isn't that precisely what that means?
Yeah.
And realistically, anyone can use their feelings to manipulate other people. It happens all the time between both sexes, across all kinds of people who look all kinds of ways. Although I will say it is especially prevalent when us ladies in general, regardless of race, start losing an argument with our men. Please take me to get nachos. No. But this is not the end of the road.
So true about like the tantrum throwing that she's mentioning there. Good for you, Sydney. That's brave. That's brave for her to admit that.
For how utterly stupid this topic is. Yes, it is 2022 and it gets worse. Another component of this is tying white women tears to femininity. Femininity.
White women are often dangerous perpetrators of anti-blackness. Many see themselves as exempt from perpetuating violence because of their womanhood. However, many white women use this femininity to cause problems for black individuals. The concept of white woman tears is convoluted because it's layered.
No, girl. It's convoluted because it doesn't make any sense.
No, it's Sydney. It actually makes perfect sense. Let's talk, Sydney. Let's talk. I'll have you on. It makes perfect sense because it's anti-white. It doesn't make sense to the conservative lens. When you look at it through the conservative lens, it makes no sense. When you look at it through the Go Free method lens, when you see it for what it is, it all makes perfect sense because every excuse they give arrives at an anti-white conclusion. Those excuses being contradictory and self-destruction or destructive, where it seems like that then doesn't work and doesn't make sense, is, as I say, in reality, proof of what they are after. When you can make contradictory positions with verb and emotion and aver these things, aver them, and as I say, they're contradictory. When you do that and you have always one destiny, it reveals everything you need to know about those people and about what they're trying to do and achieving.
One must reflect on the historical context, the racial context, and the gender context, as well as how these three work together to create unique violence against black people.
White women tears. White women are very much enablers of the system of white supremacy, and they play their role
effortlessly. White woman tears are a lot more about impact.
I'm just editing this and I just noticed that this woman has her Venmo in the corner of this video, and I don't know, that just amuses the absolute crap out of me, so I'm pointing it out for you because, yeah, complain about white women tears, get that bag, girl.
It's what happens when a white woman becomes self-aware of the damsel in distress trope, and she knows that if she cries, people are going to come defend her honor. White woman tears may be upplaying something that's actually bad that's happened, like in Chelsea's case, or they can...
And you right there, what I got to say quickly. So a white male, maybe the white wife is crying at one of these PTA, to parent-teacher association meetings, and the husband decides, or another male decides there to step up and say, she's right, this is disgusting. Well, you're coming to defend her honor. That is a tool of the victimization of non-white people. This is how the anti-whites think. You got to wake up. You got to use the ideology. You got to use the practice. That's what the Go Free method is. Just a practice. It's just concepts. It's just concepts that you use in your thinking and speaking that change everything.
Be a complete and total fabrication, as in the case with Emmett Till. White tears are about white fragility. White woman tears are about revenge.
But more than anything, I find it genuinely gross to see.
So there they say, this is the mocking. The fragility thing is a meme pathogen. And the way this works is that they say you're fragile if you do what they don't want you to do, which is to complain about your victimization. Because reverse psychology is very simple. They know that you'll say, well, I'm not fragile. I'll take on whatever you need me to take on. Don't fall for it.
People mocking white women for expressing genuine fear, sadness, and concern simply because they're white. For another example, a lot of these clips talk about a woman called Amy Cooper, also known...
So that's a great point. Applaud Sydney. This is a great video, overall. There are some things where I would jump in, as I am, and saying some of this, some of that. But overall, this is she's made a great video here, and proud of her for making it, and happy. I mean, like I say already, it just was released. It's almost 100,000.
Known as the Central Park Karen. They really love talking about Karens. Amy called talk about a woman called Amy Cooper, also known...
Okay, Amy Cooper. Make sure you watch this. Pay attention.
As the Central Park Karen. They really love talking about Karens. Amy called 911 to basically report that a bird watcher was making her uncomfortable and trying to take her dog from her. Of course, she was accused of weaponizing white tears. On Twitter, the hashtag Amy Cooper is a racist trended. She was eventually fired from her job because her employer said... Fired from her job because she cried and called for help about being terrorized in her mind in the park by this guy. So just watch. Said they do not tolerate racism of any kind. She also had to do racial sensitivity training.
Racial sensitivity training for this. Who's in charge? I mean, this is some psychotic, just anti-white, thought poisoning, brainwashing insanity.
Life has been destroyed so much so that I'm pretty sure she left the country. The bird watcher, Christian Cooper, on the other hand, basically became a minor celebrity. He was able to pen a comic for DC Comics about the incident, and Joe Biden even congratulated him.
Remember, Joe Biden congratulated him. She's going to read this real. Remember, their anti-white narrative is that white men and white people in general are in charge for our benefit. Does anything here look like white people are in charge? That's the basis of their narrative.
His own words from his own post on Facebook, it turns out that Christian had approached Amy, a woman alone in a wooded area. He then threatened her by saying, I'm going to do what I want and you're not going to like it. And then he tried to lure her dog away from her with treats that he just kept on hand.
No, that's some crazy shit. This is his own words. So, and there were white guys in the white sympathetic sphere, and you all need to apologize, who when this happened, they came out and they said, oh yeah, I know a lot of bitches like that. I bet that's exactly how it happened. Especially a lot of a certain subset in the white sympathetic sphere that we occasionally have problems with here. They actually sided against this woman. And here you have this guy. Forget about his race for a minute. Some guy far more physically fit than this woman shows up. Why does he have dog treats when he doesn't have a dog? And he goes up to her in his own words. He's saying to her, he's going to do what he wants to her, and there's nothing she can do about it. And then he produces dog treats. That's some sketchy, scary shit. You're out in the woods. That's some sketchy shit.
But you'd never know that from the TikTokers.
You sit on a throne of lies.
It actually kind of turns out that Christian is something of a serial harasser at the park. In May 2020, a man called Jerome Lockett, who is also black, said Christian had aggressively threatened him in the park. When he saw the video of Amy, he said that he didn't blame her for calling the police if Christian had approached Amy the same way Christian had approached him. Lockett also noted that other dog owners experienced similar things but didn't want to come forward and report it because they're white. Why am I not surprised?
Okay, so you see right there, that's a very important thing. The only person that could come forward and complain about this psychotic guy walking through the park looking for dog owners to harass. I mean, I don't know, maybe he was bitten by a dog when he was younger. Maybe he's just totally psychotic. Looking for dog owners to harass and carrying with him dog treats. This guy should be arrested. This guy should be, you are out there stalking people. How many white people, now you have white dog owners came forward that said, I would have come forward, but I didn't because I'm white and I would have been called a racist, a term we never use. I would have been called this. I would have been labeled. I would have been forced to do this white obedience training, anti-white obedience training as a white person, and then I'll lose my job. If that happens with a psycho anti-white, non-white person in the park, how many white women have been raped? How many white boys have been molested? How many white people have been victimized across Western civilization that did not come forward for the fear that their life would be ruined for saying that the person who would, for identifying an attacker, somebody who victimized them, was non-white. And then on top of that victimization that they experience even more victimization. How many times does that happen? Where are the big government entities that are upset about that and moving heaven and earth? Because isn't Western civilization dominated by white people for the benefit of white people? Bullshit.
On a much darker level, it's worth noting that there have been plenty of instances where white women have reported things to authorities that have ultimately gone unaddressed or unnoticed because those authorities did not want to investigate and deal with the situation for fear of offending or appearing racist towards a minority group. Rotherham, Telford, other British places that I can't remember the name of.
Yeah, so you have, let me just let her talk.
Thousands of predominantly white women and girls were abused and left to rot, basically, because the perpetrators in the situation were not white. If anything, maybe we could argue in these instances that
this is happening all across the West. Millions and millions of white people being victimized to various degrees, to the worst, to rape, molestation, and murder. And nothing is done about it because the attackers, the victimizers, were non-white. Nothing is done about it because the white victims do not report the crimes for fear that they will be further victimized for being white and saying that a non-white person had done something horrible to them.
Because these women were white, it hurt their chances of achieving any sort of justice at all. But I don't know, I'm just spitballing. Now, if nothing else, I want to leave you with two main ideas. The first is that, as you all well know,
but in my opinion, by the way, check with CNN, I could be wrong.
I personally find the overemphasis on race incredibly unhelpful. I really dislike how everything today...
Okay, so this is the conservative approach, and this is where I would really try to help Sydney. Talking about you find it uncomfortable, you dislike that everything, you don't want things to be about race. I mean, it's like she's about to say that she doesn't see color. And again, you cannot see color, but your inability to see, your handicap to see, does not stop anti-whites from victimizing you because you're white. You better start seeing the basis on which we are attacked and then call out the anti-whitism and the anti-whites when they do it, or it's never going to end.
It is viewed through a racial lens, and this topic is no exception. Sometimes people react, they respond to things. Sometimes things happen to them. Sometimes they don't like somebody else. It's not always based in racism. Sometimes people just have genuine emotions and genuine...
And when you say that, when you say it's not always based in racism, you are accepting their terminology. And when you accept their terminology, you embrace their ideology. Remember that. Tim said that. When you accept their terminology, you embrace their ideology. You make yourself subject to their ideology. That ideology is anti-whitism, and you can never win the argument. You can never find reprieve. You can never be innocent if you're white in their ideology. You cannot accept their ideology, and you can learn how to get out of their ideology and defeat them everywhere you contact anti-whites, easily defeating them, being the moral agent in that interaction with the Go Free method. It is merely a practice. That's all it is. It is scientifically proven. There are concepts that are scientifically proven, tested and proven to work. You need only use these in your thinking and in your speech. It's not many either. You need only use these and you'll change your world. And by changing your world, we will change our world for the better, for everyone, white people and non-white people included.
And reactions to things. The second is that ultimately white tears is a meme. kind of like men's tears. It's not really supported by the cultural conditions in which we exist, and nor should it. And in the end, any individual who has the power to destroy another individual's life solely on the basis of their race is bad, and that is racist. However, and realistically, all of these social justice movements that work towards finding and rooting out white supremacy, injustice, and
so that I speak to earlier, she's calling them the name that they've taken. You never give them the name of their taking. You never take the name of their giving. It's extremely important. Anti-whiteism, if you're new, is psychological warfare. It's not just some lark. It's not just sign of the time. It is psychological warfare. The Go Free method is the psychological defense for the psychological warfare that is waged against us. The social justice warriors is what they call themselves. We call them anti-whites.
Stopping violence really are just more so working towards building new racial and now gender hierarchies that replace the old ones, rather than encouraging social cohesion.
And that of course accepts their argument that the hierarchy, white people build Western civilization, they invite other people in. Sometimes they're brought in unfavorable ways, like right now with the border being open, so that all of this voters and cheap labor and soldiers can be brought in. And we will be blamed for their conditions. Rest assured. You cannot accept their anti-white narrative.
And acceptance. Now, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out established titles using the link in the description. When you do, you get 10% off your purchase. It's totally ridiculous. Do you think that it's grounded in reality in some way? Do you think that the historical part of people think, is this topic totally ridiculous? Do you think that it's grounded in reality in some way? Do you think that the historical part of this is important concerning Emmett Till? Do you think that that should be the basis for this white women tears thing that we currently are seeing today? What do you think of the Amy Cooper situation? Was that fair? Was that unfair? Is it totally crazy to you that nobody actually knows the full story about what went on there? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you like the video, hit subscribe and the thumbs up button if you...
All right, folks. If you're a fan of hers, all right. First of all, what she says there, to share your thoughts, you can share those and your ideas for her and the kind of things that we say for all of those out there who are implementing the Go Free method in their lives. I'm going to jump in just a second here. So I won't have time, unfortunately. I have hit the end here. It's 5:31 East Coast time. I got to roll. If there are any questions or comments or financial gifts, I will get to them in the next roll in, go free, rest assured. And make sure you're watching both of our dragon shows tonight over on Yiz channel and over on Fornull's channel. 6 o'clock, it's coming up in a half an hour, Yiz. 8 o'clock, Fornull. Make sure you're there. They'll share the URLs in the live chat, or I will put it in the thread afterward. Great job to Sydney. I mean, where she is coming from as a conservative thinker, great job for her looking at the world the way she is. And thank you to her for reaching her fans in the way that she is able to. And I hope deeply that some of her fans, maybe Sydney herself, will decide to take a look at the Go Free method. I will send Sydney a Go Free book free of charge to her immediately, whenever she will have it, and she'll have a look. And we would have her on to talk about where I think that she is going wrong here. But otherwise, a big salute. Let's get some salutes and raucous emojis for Sydney and what she did here in this video. Thank you very much. And to all of those who are her fans and watching now or watching in replay, I hope some watch in replay. This video that she just made was demonetized because she used white women, I guess, the word white in the title. I think she changed that. And it says so, at least in the description here. Video was demonetized. So consider that, the effort she put in, the time she put in. If she has a place, I don't know what it is, where you could go and financially gift her. Maybe if you're one of her fans, go and do that in lieu of the monetization that she otherwise would have had. And other than that, it's been marvelous, as always, to be with all of you on this roll-in. And look forward to seeing you all again when we can get together. Roll out. I want you to reach out, and I want you to let those brothers and sisters around the base, let them know that even though the anti-whites wield so much power, that we are winning every contest with them, and that it's only a matter of time. Tell them that they can be more than they are. Tell them that they can stand up for Western kind, Western civilization, and everyone who lives in Western civilization of all immutable characteristics. Tell them that there's a way that they can stand up for it in love. with the moral high ground. Be gentle with them at first. Coming out of a story that you thought was the real world is one of the hardest things that folks can do. If you go there with a true spirit and a true heart, with humility, you're going to win more souls than you'll ever turn away. And in the end, all of that will redound to the glory of our people and the reclamation of our destiny.